I am playing one Saturday every month at Pangea on 2nd Avenue between 11th and 12th Streets in New York City. I've been a cabaret performer for 44 years, and I'm just getting started. I am talking to you with Rabbi Sol Solomon on Dave's Gone By on UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, shalom, my friends. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am delighted to be talking music and cabaret today with a singer who has been around for almost 5 decades. He has numerous awards, including MAC Awards, that's the big cabaret one, Bistro Awards, which is also a cabaret one, the Bay Area Critic Circle Award, which I've never heard of, but I'm assuming it's kind of big. He even has a caricature of himself at Sardi's restaurant, where he played for several years. He's also done some off-Broadway stuff. He's been, I think, on Broadway once or twice. And you can see him now once a month at a place called Pangea, which sounds like some kind of physical ailment. But no, it is a club on 2nd Avenue called Pangea, and you can see him August 20th and September 24th. He's doing 1 day a month. His name is Mark Nadler. Nice Jewish boy. Shalom to you, Mark.
Shalom. So nice to talk to you. You left out my Nightlife Awards and the fact that I'm the 2016 Broadway World Entertainer of the Year. But, you know, you can't. There are only so many hours on this show. I know you can't mention everything.
But that was jealousy. I thought I would be the Broadway World Entertainer of the Year, and you took it. So this upsets me, I admit.
I won't mention it again.
Because I juggle, I do things with fire, I circumcise, I do a lot. So it bothered me.
Hope you don't circumcise with fire.
We're trying. It's a laser approach. We're working on it.
That's a good technology.
Well, it beats that rabbi who bites it off and then spits.
I don't know. Have you tried it?
That was the old way. Well, yes, but not in that context. Anywho, what are we doing here? We're talking to Mark Nadler. Now, first of all, tell us about your current cabaret show that you've done so many. What's in your new one?
Well, what I'm doing down at Pangea is whatever comes to mind. It's like a conversation with the audience. It's completely improv. I make it up as I go along. I have a repertoire of over 2,500 songs sort of at my fingertips. So whatever the moment calls for, I just do. So we've been having a blast down there. It's a very small place. It only seats 45. So it's like my living room.
Oh.
Piano in the center of the room, and I just entertain. And it's not really, I guess you call it a show because it starts at a particular time and ends at a particular time. But other than that, it's not, I wouldn't even call it a show. It's just an evening of me at the piano doing songs, and I do everything that I always do. I tap dance while I play, and I sing while I play, and I tell stories, and I talk to the audience, and we've just been having a ball. I've been there since March, and I will be there through the end of the year, one Saturday every month.
Shabbos? But it's Shabbos evening, so it's okay.
No, it's Havdalah. It's Havdalah.
So you know.
I'm not there during daylight hours.
You wait for the twisty candle to burn down, and then you take center stage at the piano. Now, a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned 2,500 songs at your fingertips. I mean, that's a hell of a fake book to carry around. But you don't have to sight read. You trained by ear, didn't you, initially?
I did start playing by ear, and then very quickly after that, my mother got me lessons. Most of the songs that I know, I initially learned by ear, but then I started doing them for real. learned the music, especially with things like Cole Porter, and particularly Cole Porter, but even Gershwin. And it's just better to check the music because these guys wrote some very complicated chord structures, and the more you can get the music right, the better the songs are. You know, the music is a big part of it, and by ear you can only go so far, you know. So yeah, I do check it with the music.
One of the things I think I heard you say somewhere is that you've really never had another job outside music. Is that true?
Well, I'll tell you, Rabbi, I had one. I only had one, and it was when I first came to New York City. Well, I sort of had two. When I first came to New York City, I was studying acting, and my brother lived here before. I come from Iowa, so my brother...
My condolences, yes.
Before I did. and his best friend was a pot dealer. And so my brother's friend gave me some pot to sell just to get on my feet.
Aye.
And so I stood up in acting class before I did my monologue. I said, listen, before I do this piece, if anybody wants to buy some really excellent pot, I have some great stuff that I'm selling at a reasonable price. And then I did my monologue, and afterwards the teacher said to me, you can't do that, that's illegal.
Of course! Did that not occur to you?
No, I was completely green. So she said, look, you have a dance background. I have a connection at the New York Health and Racquet Club. I'll get you a job as a calisthenics and aerobics teacher. And so she did that. And so for a brief period, I taught calisthenics and aerobics and yoga.
All right, well, no. I mean, it's better than selling pot for crying. Well, now it isn't. Now it's legal, but holy crap. And so...
It's legal where you are.
Was that, so who was that team? Was it Uga Hagen? Who was it?
Yeah, no, it was not Uda. I was studying, what was the name of Gene? I don't remember the name of the teacher. Gene was a guy who ran the studio, and the teacher's name I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
But this was already in New York, right? This was not back in Iowa.
Yes.
Right. So
No. I did.
Yeah.
I left Iowa when I was 14, and I went to the Interlochen Arts Academy, and I was a theater major there. That was my high school education, and then I came right to New York. Gene Frankel was the name of.
Oh, Gene Frankel. He's got a theater named after him off Broadway.
Right.
Right. Okay.
I also, when I lived in LA, I studied with Charles Nelson Riley, and I.
Oh. Wait. Stop right there, please. Give us a Charles Nelson Riley story.
Well, my favorite thing that would happen in class was we always did scene work in his class. It wasn't monologues generally. It was scene work where you'd work with a partner, and he insisted that you bring in props and costumes and do it full out. If you did a particularly heart-wrenching scene where you're just in a puddle of tears on the floor at the end of it, and the other person in the scene is sweating and dying from the emotion of what you've just been through, Charles would look at the class and he'd say, "It's fun, isn't it?"
All right. I thought he was about to say, well, you've got to pull back. If you're crying and schwitzing and doing it, you're not letting the audience do anything. You know, you've got to dial everything back.
If it was appropriate to the scene for us to be in a puddle, he got us to the puddle.
So was he a good teacher overall?
He was a magnificent teacher. He was, actually, you mentioned Uda Hagen. He was a disciple of hers.
Oh, wow.
He called her Miss Hagen. Yeah. And so he essentially taught her method. And he was a magnificent teacher. Yeah, I learned a lot from him that I use all the time. I just finished directing a nightclub act for a woman named Stacey Sullivan. A lot of the analysis that I helped her do of her songs that caused the New York Times to say it was exquisitely directed.
Ooh.
All of that I learned from Charles.
Did she wind up in a puddle of schwitz?
It wasn't appropriate to the material.
Ah, okay. Well, no, didn't she do Down in the Meadow in an itty bitty pool swam through? Isn't that? Yeah, she did that song, and by the end of it, she actually created the water by herself. It was really amazing. I kid.
That just brings up so many images that I don't want in my head.
Well, good, because all it brought up for a moment was a scary silence. And as an entertainer and a humorist, you know how awful that can be.
I do.
You went completely musical. There was a point when you were trying to be a quote-unquote serious actor.
Well, acting is a huge part of cabaret. What you try to do when you do a song in a cabaret is you try to create a whole world with the song. You try to create a 3-act play with each song. And there's a lot of acting. It's mainly acting technique. Yes, it's musical. I've always been musical. I started playing the piano when I was 4.
Wow.
My first job when I was 10. That's why I've been in it 44 years. I'm only 54. I've always been musical, and I studied dance and was a dancer, and I still tap, and so...
Well, did you ever go out for... did you try and get into the choruses of Broadway musicals?
Never the chorus. I was never going to be a chorus boy. But...
Wait, why not? If you could dance and tap, why not?
Because my voice... I wasn't I wasn't the type that would blend.
Ah, okay. Yes, I think that's kind of clear. Yes, okay.
But I was cast in a couple of Broadway shows, and I was off Broadway, and I have done musicals, and I got stock and all of that. And
I got to stop you again. Because in the research for this interview, I checked IBDB, and you're nowhere on there. So you need to contact them and tell them what Broadway shows were you in.
I was the onstage pianist for Dame Edna, which sounds like an accompanist role, but it was not. It was a role with Dame Edna, the Royal Tour, and I was the replacement cast for that.
Okay.
And I also...
Well, but you should know IBDB lists replacement actors, so you might want to contact them and tell them that you were, not in the opening night cast, but they also list non-opening night cast as well. Just FYI.
Well, terrific. I'll do that. Not that I really care.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, it's nice. It's the online encyclopedia of everybody who was on Broadway for the past 100 years. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, well, that should include me.
Right.
I also did a show that you would be particularly interested in. Do you remember when they used to do those Jewish musicals at Town Hall?
I think they did Yiddle with a Fiddle.
Mary Soriano did a bunch of them. Yeah, Yiddle with a Fiddle was one of them. We called them Musicals. And
yes,
they were technically Broadway shows because it was an unlimited run in a theater of over 1,000 seats in the Broadway district. So they were technically Broadway shows.
Yeah, even if it was 500 seats, that would be, because I think $4.99 is
over 500.
Yeah,
over 500. So Town Hall is much more than that. So anyway, there was one called The Sheik of Avenue B, of which I was one of the leads.
Okay.
So that was my first Broadway show. But as my career would have it, it's a Broadway show that maybe not a Broadway show because it was at Town Hall.
Well, no, actually, to be honest,
IMDb doesn't list that. I don't know. I don't pay attention.
Well, it's like the Christmas Carol that plays at Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's as huge as any Broadway theater.
Yeah, that's not in the Broadway district, though.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, neither's Lincoln Center, to be honest. But there's all these little insane rules. But I've heard you say that the Sheik...
At any rate...
Yeah. It was not a very good musical?
Well, it was... We had a saying in the cast that the audience would start walking out during the overture, but because they tended to be so old, they'd still be there by the end, so it looked like a standing ovation.
Oh, God. But why was it not so good? I mean, it was your cute Jewish music. Nobody was expecting Hamilton. What was wrong with it?
It was produced on the cheap.
Okay.
The orchestra was a clarinet and a synthesizer.
Oh, God.
The show was a review, sort of songs from vaudeville that were about the Lower East Side, and almost every one of the songs was a song that had been cut from a vaudeville review because it sucked.
Well, no, man, that sounds promising. That's how, the cut song idea is great, but one thing that you said is that the subject matter of the songs tended to be, shall we say, offensive?
Oh.
No?
These were absolutely. These were the songs this was at a time when politically incorrect was all the rage. And so all of these songs were like, there was this song called The Rabbi's Daughter that we did a cappella, and it was a song about a rabbi's daughter who marries a non-Jew and dies, and that's considered a happy ending. The rabbi can sleep at night because her daughter died. His daughter died. I mean, these were just horrible songs. Actually, one of the better songs in the show was one of my numbers. It was called Yiddish Jazz.
Oh, okay.
And it was a song about how when you eat Jewish food, it gives you gas, and that creates a certain kind of music of its own.
Oh no!
That's called Yiddish Jazz.
So it was a song about farts, basically. Yeah. Do you remember any of the song? Because I'm going to beg you to sing some. I am on my knees.
I have banned it. I have struck it from my memory, never to be returned.
Oh, no. Oh, please, come on. That means somewhere in the interstices...
Honestly, I really don't remember it at all.
Oh.
God, this was 25 years ago.
Yiddish... Oh.
And what would make me laugh is because we were considered a Broadway show, we were on the TKTS board under Broadway. Under Broadway listings.
That's good, though. Yeah.
Well, because it was a less expensive show than any other Broadway show, every once in a while you would see like a group of 10 black women, and you just knew that they got their tickets at TKTS and went for the least expensive show they could find. They were so unhappy from the moment they arrived. Sitting there amongst these busloads of people from the Hebrew Home for the Aged. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, I would love to mingle like intermission, just to hear the conversations.
No, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. Our opening day, we didn't have an opening night, we had an opening day. Our opening day, the intermission was 47 minutes long. The intermission.
Why?
Because, and I swear to you, I am not making this up, there was a traffic jam of walkers. I mean, they practically had to bring in soldering guns to these walkers unhinged from each other.
Oh my God! Oh.
That was my first Broadway show.
Wow. Now, you have also done some off-Broadway stuff, and what was it like playing for Dame Edna?
I've been nominated for Drama Desk Award, Lucille Lortel Awards. Yeah.
No, but
Dame Edna.
Yeah.
Working for him was an education. It was a great education in the art of improv comedy. And Barry Humphries is a great gentleman, and I learned a lot from working with him.
I can imagine. I mean, so how much was scripted in your interactions, obviously with the audience, but how much was kind of the same night to night, but appeared improv, and how much was actual improv?
Most of it was the same. And the art of what he does is being able to take audience participation around to where he needs it to be to get on script. In his mind, he has an enormous filing cabinet of jokes that he can just plug in at any given situation, and he would set up those situations so that he could use those jokes and make it look like improv.
But what specifically did you learn from working with Barry Humphries, a.k.a. Dame Edna?
Well, that, exactly. I learned to create an arsenal of jokes that you can plug into an improv situation, and I learned how to guide an improv situation towards the joke you want to land.
Can you give me an example of something that you've used in your act where that happened? Where you were completely 180 degrees away from where you needed to be, and are able then to spin within a couple of sentences back to where you want to be?
You know, I can't think of an example like that in my shows because I'm not doing what Barry was doing in that Broadway show, because I really am making it up as I go along, and I'm doing sort of the opposite. I'm encouraging an audience member to do something that'll inspire me to have an idea as to what song I want to do next. So it's exactly the opposite of what Barry was doing. Barry, for example, he would ask members of the audience if they had any tattoos or if they had any piercings. And his theory was always go with women. Women are funny, men are not. That was his theory.
Okay.
So people would raise their hands, and he would choose a woman. Like one time he chose a girl, and he said, "Where's your piercing?" And she said, "I have an earring in my navel." And he snapped into a joke that he had ready, you know. And the joke was, "Why? Well, I guess it makes you easier to tow if you have a breakdown."
That's good. That's good. That's sharp.
Yeah, it was great. It was great, and it looked like he just came up with that. But of course, you know, he said this at many shows. This is the technique of it. You know, anytime you see somebody being brilliant, it's right there, the spur of the moment, plus all of the years they put into getting there.
No, absolutely. I mean, of course, there's no such thing as an overnight. Well, maybe in teenage pop there is now, but other than that, you know, the overnight success took 10 years of course. By the way, I have a note, and I don't remember why, but I have a note here to ask you about your memories of Marvin Hamlisch. How did you know him?
I did 2 symphony dates with Marvin.
Ah.
I played at the Mann Center in Philadelphia with the New York Pops. and Marvin conducted one of those, and I also played there in a show that was called Three Singular Sensations with Marty Short, Marvin, Hamlisch, and me.
Wow. Talk about an ego boost to be on a bill with those two. So do you have any memories of both Martin Short and Marvin Hamlisch?
I'll tell you something about Martin Short. Martin Short is so kind. He would go out into the house and watch my set, so just so that he could come back afterwards and tell me it was good. And he didn't want to tell me it was good without having seen it, even though he had just gone on, so it could be very easy for him, as other stars do, to just retreat after.
Yeah, go to his dressing room, read for a little, check his messages and stuff, but he would watch your act. That is way cool.
It was really kind. Marvin, when we did that concert, was not well.
Oh.
So he was struggling with that, and when he was conducting, sometimes the tempi were not quite where they needed to be because he was not well. But certain things he conducted so beautifully, and he was a great professional. He just wanted to do the work. He wasn't social with me. He was just a great professional.
That's high praise, actually. It really is high praise from Mark Nadler that we are talking to, and that you can go see be both professional and determinedly wild and crazy and amateurish. Does your show have a title, or is it just Mark Nadler at Pangea?
It doesn't really have a title, but on the postcard, the headline is, "Does this room make my act look big?"
Well, actually, that does bring up a question about doing Pangea, which seems like a really cozy, lovely room.
Yeah.
But at your level of show business, and having played with Hamlisch and all these other people, and been on Brian, and been doing cabaret for 40-something years, why do a room that small when you could probably do even bigger than Don't Tell Mama? You could do Feinstein, or what do they call wherever Feinstein's is now.
I do 54 Below all the time.
Yeah, right.
I've played there many times. And I was at the Algonquin for 5 years.
Good Lord.
I've played the Carlisle. I've done all these places. But the thing about playing 54 Below, which has 120, 130 seats, is there's a lot of pressure on you to fill that room. When you are a cabaret performer, you are your own producer. You are often your own director. You're the whole shooting match. So it's up to you to get the butts in those seats. And it's a lot of work. And you know what? I just sort of got tired of it. And I make so much money, frankly, on the road. Oh. I don't have to make my money in New York City. And I just wanted to have a home in New York where I could play pressure-free, where people could come to see me if they want to, and I don't have to worry so much about getting those butts in the seats.
Which I think at one point you described as the so-called cabaret handshake.
Yeah, the cabaret handshake is putting your postcard of your show into somebody's hand when you meet them. You have to do it.
Yeah, but you don't have to do that anymore. With
Of course I do.
Oh.
Of course I do. I just don't have to work so hard at it because it's only 45 seats instead of 130.
Huh. Now, you say that if you're doing that in New York and it's not so hard to fill 45, how are you able to fill seats all over the country and all over?
Oh, because when I tour, when I go all over the country and in fact all over the world, I'm going to be playing in Malaysia in August.
Wow.
That's a very different situation. I'm booked into series where they have subscriptions, and or I'm booked into festivals where there's a ticket selling base that people are looking for something to do in these festivals. They're trying to choose what they're going to see according to the description of the act. And for instance, I've done the Adelaide Cabaret Festival 7 times in Adelaide, Australia. I'm now a really, really well-known commodity there, and so my shows sell out, as soon as they're announced in Adelaide. And there are places around the world like that for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about, because the French love Jerry Lewis, and Australia loves you.
Yeah.
What's the explanation for specifically Australia being so crazy about you?
I have no idea, but they're wonderful audiences, and they really listen. And their listening is so intent that they'll often laugh at the punchline before you get a chance to deliver it, because their listening is so great. And frankly, they tend to drink a lot.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
People who like to have a good time tend to enjoy my shows.
Well, you explain. You
People who are
yeah.
who are going out to have some sort of intellectually stirring experience generally are not going to be looking for what it is I have to sell. People who are looking just to have a good time and hear songs and laugh a lot and be sort of wild, those are the people who tend to like my shows, and Australians tend to be that way.
Now, were you at all influenced in your playing when doing this cabaret stuff by the rock and rollers like Jerry Lee Lewis at the piano, or did you come at it just a whole different way of being, well, I can jump up and down and dance and spin around and pound the keys?
Rabbi, I'm not making this up. My biggest influence in playing the piano was Bugs Bunny. I used to watch Bugs Bunny play the piano, and it made me laugh so hard, and I said, I want to do that. And then, much later, I saw Chico Marx.
Oh, yes.
And was inspired by what he did. I've been compared to Victor Borge a lot, and I never had seen him perform, but I did meet him. I was, this was actually, it was the Thursday before the Monday night that I did my Carnegie Hall debut, the first time I played at Carnegie Hall. And I was shopping at Zabar's, and Victor Borge was standing in the checkout line in front of me. And so I pushed ahead in line, as members do, and I said, Mr. Borge, my name is Mark Nadler, and on Monday night I'm going to be performing at Carnegie Hall, and it's been said in the press that I am a young Victor Borge. And without missing a beat, he looked up at me and he said, people say that I'm a young Victor Borge.
Oh. Did you invite him to the show? You should have.
I did, but he didn't come.
Oh.
Maybe he did, I don't know. Carnegie Hall seats 3,000 people. I have no idea whether he was there. He didn't come back afterwards.
Now, have you met other idols of yours? Do you have any stories of meeting famous celebrity people or people that you grew up, wide-eyed and wide-mouthed about?
There are people. It's been happening throughout my career that I meet people in the course of the business and work with them, people who I have admired my whole life, and I don't tend to have funny stories about those because you're working together and it's just a sort of profound experience. There are people who are idols of mine who I'm dying to meet who I've never met, and maybe I will sometime. And another thing that happens if you stay in the business long enough is you find out that people who you've admired all your life know your work and admire it, and you never knew it. This has happened to me recently, that someone who I was a big fan of, it turns out, is a big fan of mine. I first came to the city. When I first came to the city, my only goal was to meet Tommy Tune and work with him. I had been performing in the city for, 20 years, 25 years, when I saw Tommy at an event, and he came over to me and expressed his appreciation of my work, and he and I are now friends,
Whoa.
It was just like a marvel to me that he even knew who I was, let alone that he liked my work.
Of course. Although you could have asked him, so if you like my work, why didn't you put me in Will Rogers' Follies? Is a thought.
His answer would have been the same that mine would have been if somebody had asked me that, because there's not one part in that show that's right for me.
Well, there was a lot of vaudeville people. Maybe. You could have been the news girl, the Katie Huffman role.
That's true. I could have done Katie's part.
Now, speaking of female-ish things, you grew up in Iowa. You were Jewish, which is one thing. You also, at some point, realized you were gay. What the hell was that like in Iowa?
Being the combination of being gay and being Jewish is why I left. It's why I left at the age of 14. It's
14,
why I got that job when I was 10 years old, so that I could afford to go to the Interlochen Arts Academy. And my parents couldn't afford to send me there because they had 3 other kids in college at that time. So I got that job, and I paid for it myself, and got as we say in Iowa, I got the flock out of there.
Were your parents okay with who you were?
First of all, they didn't have a choice. I became a teenager in the 70s during the sexual revolution, and I was completely open from the beginning. I never hid it from them. They did request that I not let my father's 3 sisters know that I was gay. They didn't want to deal with the backlash from the boobies. And these women were, were old world Jewish women from Poland, and my parents were afraid of how they would deal with it. I'll tell you though, when my sister had her second wedding, I was 28, and I had gotten an earring in my left ear, and at that point, if you had an earring in your left ear, that meant you were gay.
Oh, okay.
And I wore a very small rhinestone stud in my ear for my sister's wedding, hoping nobody would notice, and because I didn't want to cause my parents this trouble of my aunts finding out.
Well, wait. If you didn't want anybody to notice, you should have left your ear naked. I mean, you obviously, some part of you wanted to be noticed.
No. If I had not worn the earring at all, then there would have been a hole in my ear.
Oh, it wouldn't have grown in. Okay, yeah, all right.
No. So I wore the smallest little rhinestone stud I could find. And sure enough, my Aunt Gert comes over to me, and she said, "What's that in your ear?" And I thought, oh, God, all right. Well, Aunt Gert, that's an earring. She said, "I know it's an earring." She said, "But is it a diamond?" Not a diamond. I can't afford a diamond. She said, "Didn't we raise you better than that?"
Oh, that's funny. That's wonderful. Oh.
Listen, there was no way these women didn't know I was gay. I was a fruitcake. I was flying around. I was singing show tunes everywhere.
Fair enough. Okay, so, but, there's being out, and then there's being what you don't talk about. I mean, right. Housewives would watch Paul Lynde on Hollywood Squares, and they'd know, but they wouldn't really know. Even Liberace, as long as it wasn't...
We knew.
Yeah, well, yeah. So are you coupled? Do you have a partner, etc., so forth?
I am. I have been with my partner for, at this point, 15 and a half years. And before him, I was with somebody for 18 years. He passed away, and we were together until he died. And then I was single for about a year and a half, which is as close to hell as I can imagine without actually dying. Being on the dating scene in New York City is just not for me. And, so then a year and a half later I met Dominic, and we've been together for 15 years.
Mit Mazel, mit Glick. Couple of quick questions, though. First of all, are you going to put a ring on it? And I don't mean in his ear.
No.
No? Why not?
Dominic is quite a bit older than I, and he is on Medicare, and so we don't need it for health insurance. There is no legal reason that it would serve us with regard to taxes or anything like that. And we just, for the two of us, being part of being gay is not being part of society in that way, not being part of the traditional world, but being untraditional. But I have to say, all of that being said, it means the world to us that it is our choice not to get married.
Right, at this point, you have the which is what it's all about. Not that you're forced to get married, but that if you want to, you can. If you don't, you don't.
Exactly.
I get it. I totally get that. Now, also, coming of age in, as you said, the 70s and into the 80s, I don't know how, the sadness of losing your other partner, but you went through the AIDS.
He died of AIDS.
He did die of AIDS.
Yeah.
Are you HIV positive? Are you clean? Are you what, personally?
I by some miracle, I never contracted HIV. I can't tell you why or how that happened, but, of course, I'm very, very careful. The best way to be careful is to find a partner and to not cheat on him.
Well, it sounds like you're a serial monogamist. I mean, if you're with this guy for 15 years and the other guy was for how long before that?
18.
18 years. So if you were basically not just with him and he didn't give it to you, then you were safe, as it were. But you must have lost...
When I was with him, no. When I was with my first partner, I was not remotely monogamous.
Oh. Okay.
Nor was he. That was who we were at that time. But I always played safe because I came, I got to New York City in 1979 first thing I did was I went right to Studio 54, and I was part of that scene. And then when the AIDS epidemic began, and it became clear that condoms were going to save your life, I was using condoms. And the thing is, though...
No, good. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, my dad, when I was talking to him about condoms, my dad told me that the night that I was conceived, he was wearing a condom. So you live by the sword, you die by the sword, was his point. And...
They don't always, sometimes...
So far it's worked out.
Yeah. Well, no, but and thank God. But you must have... it must have been a hell of a thing living in New York and being gay during the AIDS era. How many friends and people did you lose?
But for me, it was a magical time.
Oh.
Because I was really in the thick of it. One of my very first jobs in New York was playing in a gay hustler bar called Rounds on 53rd and 2nd. And they had a piano, and I was entertaining there. And people like Andy Warhol and David Geffen and all of these very, 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 very Tennessee Williams, very famous gay men would come into this place. And so it was all very magical to me. I was coming, out of Michigan out of Iowa by way of Michigan. So it was thrilling for me.
Now, moving away from some of the sad stuff. Sorry.
The theater.
Well, not only theater. Let's talk a little more about the Jewish angle, because you're certainly raised Jewish, and you know from your Havdalah candles and stuff. So, and you even apparently gave your pet back in 2004 a bar mitzvah.
Yeah, I threw a bar mitzvah for my dog in 2004. That was in the New York Times. And then my current dog, I also gave him a bar mitzvah just 2 years ago. Or what was it, 4 years ago.
So what did you do? What was it like?
Well, but the thing about the bar mitzvah was it's not remotely religious. It's a parody. When I used to play at children's bar mitzvahs, which I just don't do anymore, but when I used to be hired to entertain at those, I was always struck by the fact that the whole thing was about the parents showing off how much money they had and really didn't have too much to do with the kid or with religion.
Right, of course not, yes.
So I always thought that was very funny. So then I did this parody of a bar mitzvah that was a bar mitzvah for my dog, which had nothing to do with the dog and nothing to do with religion. Everything I served was treif on purpose. Mounds of shrimp cocktail and Reuben sandwiches, which is mixing meat and milk, all this supposedly Jewish food that is completely not kosher, pork egg rolls and...
Oh, for shame, but it sounds delicious. And you didn't invite me, which I'm upset about now, but, because I could have done a little convocation and then stuffed myself.
If I'd known you, I will say that the cantor, I had a friend who was a cantor who sang a blessing on the dog, and he had gone to Princeton.
Oh.
And a friend of mine sent me the Princeton Alumni Weekly, which is called PAW magazine, P-A-W.
Oh, well, there you go.
Weekly.
Yeah.
And in PAW magazine was an article where a man was very upset that one of his classmates had been the cantor at a bar mitzvah. And doing all of this complaining, I'm not kidding, his name was Howell.
Oh, I think you just take a pause right there. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Did he raise the woof? No, I don't even know what that means. I'm sorry. Wah, wah. So, but before I let you go, Mark Nadler, I do want to get a little bit more even into the... How Jewish are you now? I mean, do Yom Kippur? Do you do anything for the Jewish holidays? Are you atheist? Do you believe in God? Where are you on the Jew-ometer?
I am the world's worst Jew. I am. The reason I'm Jewish is because my parents were Jewish, and other than that, there's nothing about me that's Jewish except for that I don't have a foreskin. I mean, it's really, I don't do any of it. In fact, I have a Christmas tree.
Oh, wait, is your partner?
My partner is a lapsed Catholic, but he hates Christmas. But I love Christmas. I think it's a blast, and I have a big Christmas Eve party Because to me, Christmas is not a religious holiday. It's an American holiday. And
that is not. Come on, that is not true. Why don't you do Festivus instead? I mean, Christmas has Christ in the beginning of the name of it.
Yeah, so what?
What do you mean, so what?
I don't care. It's a big party, and I love it. And we have a blast, and that's my idea of a good time. Otherwise, what am I going to... I don't want to go see a movie and eat Chinese food. I want to actually, do the whole... I want to enjoy myself and have a party, and that's what I do. My father was born on December 25th. It happens to have been his birthday. So if anybody, worries about it, I say we're celebrating my dad's birthday. But the truth is, I'm celebrating Christmas. I'm celebrating this day when many people around the world have a good time, have a party, say peace on earth. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
I don't know. I have to break with you there on that.
You have to do it.
You can have a party, just not call it Christmas. You can call it something else. Just have another bar mitzvah. Get a pet rock and then have a birthday party for it or something. Doesn't have to be Christmas. That's just me.
Right.
Just a thought.
All right, I promise I won't invite you.
Okay, do not invite me to that. But something else, definitely. If you have another circumcision, I'm there. Now, people can celebrate, though.
Find something else to cut off.
Well, we're Jewish. We can do the noses. But, if you want to celebrate and have a fantastic time on a day that is not Christmas, you're going to want to go see Mark...
That's the point.
What? Sorry?
Wait a minute. You were about to do a plug. Let me go back. That's the point.
Well, you want me to do the plug. You want me to tell people to go on August 20th and September 24th.
No, August 23rd.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Saturday night.
Sorry, my fault. Saturday, August... No. Get your calendar. It's Saturday, August 20th.
Well, it's this Saturday, whatever that is.
Well, you're thinking of July.
Oh, July is this Saturday, right.
Right.
It's August 20th, right?
August 20th, September 24th.
Right, it is August 20th.
Yes, I know that. Shut up! Let me do my plug, will you? August 20th, September 24th. Also, on a Saturday over the next couple of months, all through 2016. And who knows, will you even carry it into the next year?
Maybe, but can I just say something?
Please.
It's all a little confusing, so if people really want to find out when to see me at Pangea and where it is, just go to my website, marknadler.com, click on calendar, and the calendar will come up and you'll see exactly where I am and when I'm there.
marknadler.com, MarkNadler, marknadler.com. It has been absolutely joyful and delightful talking to you. I have one more question for you that is concerned with music. I'm guessing Cole Porter might be your favorite composer. Is it? Or is there someone else?
Well, that's really hard to say. When you know as many songs as I do, and you just love as many songs as I do, I love Cole Porter. Cole Porter is probably my favorite of the classics. There's a songwriter named John Wallowich, who was a friend of mine. I do a lot of his songs, and I'm crazy about them. I love the songs of another friend of mine, Carol Hall, who wrote Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. She's an extraordinary songwriter. It's really, I just can't choose my favorite, but Cole Porter is right up there, that's for sure. And Gershwin also. I'm crazy about Gershwin.
Now, do you listen to pop and rock and roll music? Do you have that kind of stuff on your iTunes?
You know what, Rabbi? When I'm not working and I'm not learning music, I don't listen to music much. Because it's just, my ears are so full of music all the time, it's hard to sleep at night. And I have so many songs in my head all the time going that I have my sort of internal iTunes.
No, I totally and completely understand that. I guess I'm also intimating maybe, do you ever take anybody from 1960s, or from the rock, folk, pop era, and do those songs in your act?
I have a whole show that I do that was on PBS called Crazy 1961, of the songs of 1961. It's rock and pop. And that just aired October 1st on PBS last year.
Oh, so people can maybe get that on...
They can stream that on my website, as a matter of fact, if they want to see that show.
Another reason to go to marknadler.com. .com. And Mark Nadler, not the .com, but the real human being. We appreciate your humor, your fun, your delightfulness in talking to us, and your Jewishness, and your gayness, all of the Mark Nadler-ness that is out there. Wishing you
Thanks, Rabbi.
much more success, much more music in your life, and thank you so much for joining us. Shalom.
Shalom.